Good morning, traders. It's Monday, March 4th. My name is Charles. I'm from a community called Piratetraders, and we are focused on the ES, the NQ, and how it moves through the two-way auction process. Just waiting to make sure the live stream is working here this morning. Yes, it is. All right. Well, good morning to everyone in the chat. Demo Trader, Sergio, Nap, and Mark. Welcome, welcome. Please say hello. Please smash that like button. I sure would appreciate it. All right. Well, let's jump into the market this week and figure out what we might be expecting to see. So as always, I will talk about intraday sort of levels to watch, but first I want to zoom out and give myself a little bit more perspective by looking at the market on a larger time frame. Okay, so I'm going to start with the monthly time frame. What stands out to me about the monthly time frame is that the market is bullish. We are one time framing higher, meaning we are making higher highs and higher lows on the monthly time frame. There is no reason to assume that that cannot continue. You know, that we couldn't go higher for another month and another month and another month, right? It is worth noting, though, that since we broke out above the previous all-time highs, we have not come back down to backtest them, which one would assume eventually at some point we will do. So we have the momentum. There's no reason they can't keep it going on the monthly time frame, but we are keeping an eye on the fact that eventually that momentum has to come to an end. Market can't go straight up forever. So let's zoom in a little bit and look at the weekly. Same thing here. We see a lot of momentum on the weekly time frame. We had a couple weeks here around the beginning of the year where the market did a little bit of balancing, but all in all, we are just continuing to make this move higher and higher and higher. So if we're looking for that larger pullback on the monthly basis, the first signal that that is going to happen will likely be when we make a lower high and a lower low on the weekly basis. But again, for now, they have the momentum. No reason they can't keep it going. All right, so let's zoom in a bit more. We'll take a look at the daily time frame. So on the daily, things get a little more interesting. We can see that this market has not been going up in a straight line, not at all. It has been pushing higher and balancing and pushing higher and balancing. We got this first push where we broke away from those previous all-time highs. We balanced with price. We had a pullback with price. It was immediately bought back up, and the momentum continued. Then we spent some time balancing off with time, going sideways in a range, bringing in new buyers, and we got a continuation. Then we literally did that once again last week, another week of balance with time. I'm going to go ahead and mark that on the chart here. So that balance area is going to look something like that right there. And why am I marking it? Well, because we broke out of that balance last week, which means at some point this week, we are likely to come back and back test it before we continue higher. Okay. Now this is on both markets, the ES and the NQ. Both markets broke out of a balance area last week, and so they are likely at some point this week to need to come back to back test that breakout for continuation higher. And the reason I bring that up is because we are now going to zoom in and take a look at the market profile chart to get a more in-depth view of where the market has been spending time, where it has been bringing in volume, what kind of business have they been doing. So we've got Friday's range. Friday, the market broke out of that balance area. It came back up to test previous all-time highs. It had a little pullback, a little bit of cessation, and then it immediately started pushing higher. Well, what was interesting to me on Friday was not the fact that we pushed higher. That was to be expected. When you've got blue skies, the market can just keep going and going and going as we squeeze more and more shorts and bring in more and more FOMO buyers. So the move to the upside did not surprise me. But what did surprise me was the fact that once we pushed up, let me just elongate out yesterday's profile. Once we pushed up, we never came back down. We just went sideways up at higher prices. We spent enough time and brought in enough volume to pull the points of control up here to the upper end of the range. That is extremely bullish to see. It is a sign that they are turning the new all-time highs into a fair price to do business, a fair place to have two-sided trade and to just go sideways. So that caught my eye at the end of the day on Friday. Well, now we've got the weekend's worth of information to work with. And what did the market do all weekend long? It basically just went sideways right here around, the highs of Friday. So that is a sign. They don't need to pull back. Not yet, right? Not at this moment. Do we think that they need to pull back and back test those previous balance areas? Yes, of course. We just talked about that on the daily. They got to pull back and back test these breakouts. Okay. But do they have to do it right now, this morning, first thing? No, not at all. They have spent enough time and brought in enough volume up here that they could stay up here and continue higher. So this morning when the market opens, I will be using Friday's high, the new all-time high, as a chop zone high. And I'll be using whatever is the overnight low. We still got another half an hour before the market opens, so they may drift lower. But whatever is the overnight low at the opening bell, I'll be using that as a chop zone low. And basically just assuming for the first hour of the day, they're likely to chop around in that range. But if they get above yesterday's high, if they get above Friday's high and turn it into support, that is very, very bullish that the momentum will continue. Because it's a bull market, And if they get below whatever will be the overnight low at that time and they get resistance, well, then I will assume they need to pull back down to back test the breakout from these previous balance areas. So what would be the level I'd be looking for them to test? On the ES, that's going to be 51.12. Okay, 51.12 was a weak reference on Friday. So that alone increases the odds that if the market is heading lower, it will likely get to that level. Okay. Now that may be all it needs to do. It may just need to tag that level and then it can turn around and head higher. That is also the highs, from the balance. Let me zoom out here a little bit. So you can see where the market got a lot of resistance in here. You can see where the market ran out of steam in here. You can see where the market got a lot of resistance in here. So if there was an area, forget that weak reference is even there. If the market was pulling back, looking for buyers, looking for support, well, this node would be an excellent place for those buyers to step in. So the confluence of both of those things, the confluence of the fact that it is a weak reference that needs to be repaired, and right below it, there is support that could potentially turn around the market and take it higher, makes that a good balance area high to me, makes that a good area to look for the market to reverse, to find some buyers and reverse and head back up. If it does not, so if the market pushes down there, repairs that weak reference, and then continues to spend time and bring in volume back inside this previous balance area, well, then the odds instantly change and the higher probability is we're going to get a larger pullback with price. That to me is a less likely scenario. It is, of course, possible, and I will know what it looks like if it's happening. And you better believe as a trader, I will change my mind instantly if we start to spend time and bring in volume inside that previous balance area. I will very instantly become a bear, but the higher probability in my mind is that we either just go sideways up here at higher prices and then continue higher, or we pull back down, find support, and then turn around and head higher. These two scenarios are a higher probability in my mind than that larger pullback. Okay, so I'll be thinking, is there support? Is there support? Is there support? Looking for an opportunity to get long down there around 51.12 rather than getting bearish for that larger pullback. And what would change my mind is if we don't get that bounce. If the market stays inside the previous balance area, continues to spend time, continues to bring in volume, then I get more bearish. Okay? So now it's the same exact principle at play in the NQ this morning. This was a previous balance area in here. We'll call that balance area high 18,106. Again, it's the same idea. Where did the market run out of momentum? previously? Where was their support and resistance previously? Likely, if the market comes back down there, that's where the buyers will be waiting to reverse the market back up. So the same thing as I said with the, excuse me, with the ES, overnight high, which is weak, by the way, because it's a new all-time high. So that increases the odds that we will revisit it. But overnight high and whatever will be the overnight low when the opening bell rings in 20 minutes, that will be my chop zone. Well, I will assume it's going to bounce around. But if it gets above that overnight high, turns it into support, green lights, baby, blue skies. It's a bull market, you know. And if they push below whatever will be the overnight low and they turn that into resistance, then I will be looking for a larger pullback. Now, there are a lot of levels inside Friday's range for the NQ where they could potentially find support without having to come all the way back to that balance area high. I'm looking at the base of the single prints at 18,294 as a potential support. Same thing at 18,275 potential support. And then once again, 18,252 potential support. Okay. Whenever the market creates multiple distributions like this, where it leaves behind single prints, it significantly increases the odds that a later market, meaning the next day or a few days later or whatever, will come back down and backfill those singles. However, there will likely be buyers waiting at each one of those levels. So those are three potential support levels if we do get below that overnight low and we do get resistance, okay? And then the last one is this area right here around the halfback where we brought in a little volume yesterday, had a little two-sided trade. That's around 18,228. So any of those areas could act as support, okay? The NQ, if it were to push below the overnight low and get resistance, may not need to come all the way back to the balance area high. However, if none of those hold as support, so I'm looking for a bounce, doesn't get it, 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 then that larger pullback to 18,106 would be in play. And again, that is the least likely scenario in my mind. More likely, we either go sideways and break higher, or we get a pullback, reverse, and then go higher. Okay? It's a bull market, you know. Forget everything that you've been hearing about, fundamentals. Forget everything you've been hearing about how the market has to pull back. It does not have to do it. As long as they keep buying dips, as long as they keep bringing in more buyers and more buyers, they can just keep bringing in more buyers and more buyers. That is the nature of blue skies. That is the nature of being in an area where we're making new all-time highs all the time. Everyone's trying to short it because everyone's convinced it's got to flip in reverse. And they all want to catch that high tick. And then what happens is it just pushes a little tiny bit higher and it squeezes all those traders and it keeps going up. So does this market need a pullback? Yes, it does. Right? We can see on the daily time frame for both the ES and the NQ, they do need a pullback. Does that mean that pullback is going to happen today? Not at all. Which is why we'll be in a chop zone watching that overnight low to see if we can stay above it. Both markets. Any questions from the chat? Looks like they're trying to front run a pullback right now on the ES here. I know this sounds strange to say, but that is actually bullish to see. Because once that opening bell rings, however far they pull back, if they can hold that low, that would be bullish. Good morning to the demo trader. Sergio Knapp, Mark, Chi-Town, let's go. Debbie B. Claudia, I'm going to totally say this name wrong. Claudu, good morning to you. Bill is here. Jay, Willie T, Sebastian. Sergio says, do you make the live every day? Yes. So every single day from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m., I'm live to my community, the Piratetraders Brigade. If you're interested in joining, you can see the link up at the top of the screen, piratetraders.io/join. It's only $10 and you can hang out with me every day. I also made a video on my YouTube channel this week where I went through and kind of showed some of the insights that I gave throughout the week last week and how they played out, if you're looking to get an idea of how things work. We got 97 people hanging out. Only 27 likes. My favorite question of all. Are you a 7-figure profitable trader? No, I am not. I do not make millions of dollars a year. I am a 6-figure profitable trader. But I'll get there. That's the cool thing about being profitable. Your profits compound, right? So I manage my risk based on my portfolio size. So as I get more and more wins and my portfolio grows, I'm very slowly sizing up and taking larger and larger trades. So I absolutely do predict that I will be a 7-figure trader, but I'm not there yet. Lots of more skills I got to work on first. Thank you, Mackie Max. Appreciate you. You too, Mark. Many thanks. So we got like 15 minutes until the market opens. I've covered my analysis. That's the nice thing about trading the two-way auction process. It is actually quite simple, right? It's not that complicated to prepare myself for the day. What are the things I think is going to happen? I think we're going to go sideways and higher or get a very small pullback and go higher. Okay, great. What are the levels to watch? The overnight low, the week references. Okay, great. I'm ready. I'm ready for the day. So if you guys have any questions for me, hit me up. Now, there's no way to know if this liquidity will still be in here when the opening bell rings, but whenever I see extremely large pools of liquidity sitting above or below or both price in this way, I assume it means the market is going to be a little bit manipulated by the bots today. Basically, you got computers trading against computers. And so by doing this, by somebody going in and layering a ton of orders in above price or a ton of orders below or both, essentially, it confuses all the other algorithms, right? Because the algorithms are using the liquidity that's currently in the order book as their decision-making mechanism. If there's tons of liquidity above or tons of liquidity below, they don't want to get too far away from there. So let's say this big pool of liquidity wasn't up here and we just had this one below. It would mean even if the market started to go higher, it's probably not going to get that far because those day trading bots will be afraid to go too far away from this node. And if it were, vice versa, if this one weren't here and this one were above, even if we started to pull back, I would think it's probably not going to go that far. Seeing both of them there makes me think they want more of this. They want more chop in a tight range. They want to just spend some time going sideways up here. So we'll see if those disappear once the opening bell rings. But obviously that is part of the mechanism at play right now, why the market is grinding around in such a tight range. If that is going to be the case, and it is going to be a day where we just grind around in a tight range in the upper end of yesterday's, profile, we will also see a lot of icebergs in the bookmap This iceberg setting, the way I have it set up, just basically shows me when larger players or computers are trading the market. So if we see lots and lots of icebergs above and below, we know that's just bots trying to keep the market in a tight range. So that is something else we'll be watching for. Again, in 10 minutes when the market opens. Cloudu says this is NASDAQ. So I have both the ES and the NQ. I mainly focus personally on the ES, but if you have questions about the NQ, you can ask me throughout the day. As I've said, right now, they're both doing the exact same thing. They're both just rotating at the upper end of Friday's range, which is at the all-time highs, which is bullish to see. Both markets, the thing that will change my mind is getting below the overnight lows. Okay, right now, the overnight low for the NQ is 18,312. So if once the opening bell rings, they stay above there, it's bullish. Okay, if they get below, we watch to see if they can turn it into resistance. Fighter Pilot says, good morning. Take a look at Charles's community and speed up your learning. Take the course. Charles understands the complexities of trader skill development. Get after it. Thank you, brother, as always. Yeah, I mean, that's the idea, is that it took me years of treading water with my trading, of winning some, losing some, trying this market and this tool and that tool and this chart setup and that chart setup, and like just bouncing around from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing before I began to understand the basic concept that, and of course I'm talking about day trading now, which is very different than, long-term investing or even swing trading. But as a day trader, it is just basically a complex skill, like any other complex skill. Whether you're trying to learn to play a musical instrument, or you're trying to get really good at a certain sport, or, the game of chess or poker or whatever it might be, right? It is simply a complex skill, and you develop your skills as a trader the same way you do in any of those other mediums, right? You don't get good enough to be an NBA basketball player by trying every sport there is to try. You do it by just learning the basics of how to play basketball and then practicing day in and day out and putting in that effort consistently and staying motivated and focused and working through the hardships, knowing that you're going to have to practice your three throw 1,000 times before you're going to be able to nail it in a game with the whole huge crowd watching you. You know what I mean? Trading is exactly the same thing. If you're bouncing around from this to that, to this to that, let me try this. This isn't working. Let me try that. That isn't working. Blah, 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 blah. You're never going to be a pro. You're never going to get to that professional level. What you must do is pick one thing and just become the best in the world at it. Just be totally focused on that one single thing. For me, that thing is trading the ES as a day trader using the two-way auction process. Basically just measuring, are there more buyers or sellers in the market? And if there's more buyers, assuming market going to go up. And if there's more sellers, assuming market going to go down. And by simplifying everything to just that and spending years and years and years honing that skill, I got to where I am today. So I do my best to teach that because I think it's very different from what a lot of other people in the frou-rou space are teaching, which is like, you just need this new software or this new doodad or whatever. Doodad? Do they call them doodads, or am I totally wrong? Thank you, Demo Trader. Appreciate you. Frito says, Sierra chart is dead in the water. Uh-oh. That's not good. Sun says, can you get this trading software with crypto? Yes, sir. So both the Bookmap chart that you see on the left side of the screen and the market profile chart that you see on the right side of the screen are both useful in any market, okay? Any market you want to trade at all. Every market is just a measurement of buyers and sellers. So Bookmap can show you where is the current liquidity in that market and how is it changing, right? And any market profile software can show you where does the market go, how much time does it spend there, how much volume does it bring in. That could be any market you're trading. That could be a good insight. I don't personally, trade crypto, but I know Bookmap has some very cool tools for combining different markets. So, you have spot exchanges all over the world that have slight differences in volume and liquidity and things like that. And you can combine it all together on one chart. So definitely worth doing some research if you're a crypto trader. 4 minutes to market open. Good morning, Michael. Welcome. Sorry, I keep screwing up these names. Narvari? Sorry. What is the bottom little thing on the Bookmap? So this is one of their add-ons, which is called Market Pulse. And basically the way I'll show you the settings. The way I have the settings set up right now on this Market Pulse, I'm just experimenting with it to see if I like it right now, is I'm using the volume pressure imbalance as a measurement tool. So basically, is there more volume at this moment, like at this second? Is there more volume going long or going short? Okay. And if there is significantly more volume going long or going short, the further it'll go green. If it's more short than long, the further it'll go red. And I've got it set up so that if it crosses the 92% level, so that more than 90% of the pressure is buying at this exact moment or selling at this exact moment, then it makes a little noise. And you guys will hear that. It'll be like, brrch, brrch. It's very annoying. But the idea is a lot of times the market will actually reverse after one of these signals. So there, it just hit for a second. Okay. So a lot of times if the market is going down and then you get that red push all the way to 100%, that is actually just taking out the stops from the buyers. So right then and there, it'll turn around and start heading back up and vice versa. So I'm just playing with it this week to see if I like it, to see if it's useful. I don't know that I'll keep it, but it is very interesting as a conceptual idea because this is something that happens when they take out those stops, when they just sweep the order books and they just take out, 10,000 orders instantly or whatever. It's very hard for your brain to see it on the chart and to keep up with what's happening. You would literally have to be staring at the Bookmap at that exact second to see it happen. But this just makes like a little noise. So it's like you can kind of be half distracted. You could be looking at something else. And then you hear that noise and you're like, oh, wait, oh shit, they just swept the order books. Is this a level where I was looking to buy support? Is this a level where I was looking to sell resistance? And then also what comes next, right? Because let's say, so for example, let's take like this level right here around 51.42. That is likely to act as resistance as the market pushes up into it. Let's say we get that, there's resistance there, and then we get that buying where it takes it out. That likely means we just stopped a bunch of sellers and now we can reverse and go lower, right? But what if it doesn't? What if we get that noise and then it keeps going? Well, that's a sign of new buyers stepping in. That's a sign of a change in the market. So it could be very useful for that as well. Again, I'm still just experimenting. Okay, we got 1 minute to market open. For those of you that are just joining the channel, I am seeing on the ES 51.32 to 51.49 as a chop zone where the market is likely to just grind around. If it gets below that low and it gets new selling, meaning they turn it into resistance, I will be bearish for a pullback to 51.12. If they look below and fail, pulling right back up in, I will assume we're going to keep going sideways. Same thing with the all-time highs. If they get above there and fail and pull back in, more sideways. if they get above there and turn it into support, well, that's about as bullish as you can be. Blue skies, baby. And it's the exact same thing on the NQ. So we're testing that overnight low right now, which is at 18.3. Well, we're just poking below it now. So the question will be for the NQ, literally as we speak, do they push below and then turn around and head right back up into the overnight range, passing back through the opening price? Or do they start to spend time and bring in volume down here? The more time and the more volume, the more likely they need a pullback. Okay? Right now, it's a look below and fail, which is bullish. So I'm looking for some chop. I'm looking for some sideways grind in this overnight range and looking for more information based on how the market handles that. Let's also just zoom out real quick and see, yep, that liquidity that we were talking about earlier is still sitting above and below price, increasing the odds they want a choppy sideways day. It's a chop zone. It's a chop zone. Very tight range here. Don't get mad at me. It is what it is. So these are the support and resistance levels I'm watching. What happens when we push up into resistance? Does the market reverse and come back down? What happens when we bounce into support? Do we turn around and come back up? Cloud says gold go up, up. Gold go up, up. Yeah, it's weird. It's like everything's going up, up. Gold's going up, up. Oil's going up, up. Stock market's going up, up. Crypto's going up, up. WTF. Yeah, gold looking good. It could break out of this range. So you would want to see today continuation higher up towards the, we'll call it 2140s, right? Then you'd want to see a pullback to back test this support that they are literally breaking out of today. So you want to see the push higher. You want to see them come back down. Excuse me. If they can turn that into support, yes, sir, they could keep this thing going higher. Bitcoin still on a rip, creeping its way towards those all-time highs. I would say those all-time highs are certainly in play now. So 68, we'll call it 68,800 is now in play. Back to the ES and the chop zone, where they'll chop it up. John Q says, never trade 10 contracts at 6 a.m. Barely made it out alive. Yeah, if you're talking about 10 ES contracts, boy, that was a tight range. I'm sure it was one of those days where it was like, you're green, you're red, you're green, you're red, you're green. You're like, ah. That's funny. Okay, so we are pushing higher to head up and test the resistance around 51.41. But I make note of two things at the low. First off, the low itself is weak because we only went one tick below the opening price. We also have an iceberg waiting down there. That is going to act as a magnet. So that increases the odds we will get resistance and come back through the opening price. Further confirming the idea of a choppy morning. Got 150 people hanging out. Smash that thumbs up. Bookmap's out here giving you this amazing insight for free. Give them a little thumbs up to support the channel. See, this is what I love about this community, guys. We got Chi-Town, we got Fighter Pilot, trying to help out another trader, get them going live. Okay, so we are passing back through the opening price. That increases the odds. We will repair the week low and head down to test this iceberg at 51.32. We will be looking for a bounce there as well. We only traded 11 contracts at the high of the day. So just like the fact that the low was weak because it was one tick from the opening price and we ended up coming back down for it, the fact that we only traded 11 contracts at the high increases the odds that whenever we find support, we'll come back up for that. Further confirming the chop zone where they will chop it up. This is a tight range too, man. Very tight range. All right, so it looks like the NQ has been playing tug of war right at that overnight low, trying to decide, can they turn it into resistance? They cannot, or they have not yet. So that increases the odds they will pass back through the opening price. Now, I'm not making a call for the low of the day right now. It's still choppy. There's probably still hours of going sideways, but there is a chance if we get back up through the opening price now, that could be the low of the day for the Q. What you will want to see is for the market to pass back through the opening price, get some resistance, come back down, and then turn this node where all the tug of war has been happening into support. So if you can see all those things, you can see the market push back through the opening, come back down, and find support, that would be bullish to me. Right now, it's still choppy. But it's a good first sign to have a look below and fail of the overnight low, as that is a sign there were buyers waiting to buy that dip. Back to the ES. You get some chop, and you get some chop, and you get some chop. Okay, so we're pushing up into some resistance here around 42. We can tell that that will be resistance because it was the fairest price to do business all night last night, just below the fairest price to do business on Friday. So if there's a place for sellers to do business, boy, the fair price seems like a good place. So we are looking for resistance here. And then the thing we would expect to see if the chop is going to continue is for it to push into resistance and then get smacked back down through the opening price once again. However, if it pushes into the resistance, comes back down, and then turns the half back into support, that would be bullish to see. As of now, it's still too choppy to know. We got to just watch what happens at support, resistance, and the half back for more insights. Okay, did you guys just hear that? The market pulse just told us we squeezed some sellers. Was it enough to reverse, or do we have some more sellers to squeeze? Okay, so there's the resistance. So now the question is, are we taking the market back through the opening price, or can we turn half back, which we're testing right now? Man, this is such a tight range. 51.38. Can we turn that into support? Here we go, right now. If we can turn it into support, that is bullish, that we're likely heading up to test the next resistance. If not, coming down to test the support. Oh, so choppity. Suriname says, I am struggling big time. Well, far be it for me to tell you what to do, but I will tell you one edge that I have found in my trading is to not take trades when the market is in a chop zone like this, as delicious as they may seem. The problem is, once you enter the trade, your emotions go absolutely apeshit crazy because it's so choppy. And so you can't have any confidence that your support is holding or your resistance is holding. Okay, so we're testing the halfback. Can they hold it? If not, we're heading back through the opening price. And it's not. The chop continues, folks. The buyers gave it a try. They didn't have enough buyers. So now we got to head down to a lower price looking for buyers there. But so if you're trying to enter trades inside the chop zone, it is just emotionally very difficult. It's not that you can't call. Look, I just called a resistance level. I could have gotten short there. I could move my stop below my entry right now. I'd be in the trade with no risk. You know what I mean? But then I'd have to take another trade and take another trade and take another trade and take another trade. And by the time we finally break out of the zone, I've taken 10 trades. I'm exhausted. They were probably half winners and half losers. And I'm just like, I don't have any energy left for the rest of the day. So for me personally, I just choose to let the market grind and grind and grind. And I just try to understand what it's doing while it's grinding. I try to understand, are the buyers taking control? Are the sellers taking control? Who's got more oomph behind them? You know, we talked about this morning. What are the two main influences that tells me the chop is likely to continue? They're both from Bookmap. This liquidity here, with this liquidity here, with the fact that it's icebergs on every side of the market, tells me they're just going to keep chopping. But I don't know exactly where they're going to reverse it. I can't. So instead of trying to guess and getting squeezed and getting emotional and dealing with the frustration, I just sit back, relax, give them an hour or two, let them grind themselves crazy, and then I look for trades. And those trades will be much easier. Support will be tested once or twice and then it'll go. Resistance will be tested once or twice and then it'll go, instead of again and again and again and again. There's a big difference between knowing what a market is doing and actually entering and managing trades in that market. They're separate skills. So I'm very, very good at knowing when a market is going to chop, but I'm very, very bad at entering trades. So my edge as a trader is to not trade and to just watch and to use the information I gain to give me insights for the rest of the day. What you begin to realize the more time you spend trading, and by time I mean months and years that you spend trading, the more you realize that the fewer trades you take, the better off you are. You only need one winning trade a day to make money in this business. That's it. One winning trade every day. So if you can avoid the 5 losing trades and only take the one trade that's going to be the one winning trade, over a series of days, weeks, months, and years, you will make money. You will be profitable. Whereas if you try to take every trade, the market gives, I could get short here, I could get long here, I could do this, oh my God, I could do that. If you try to take every trade, you'll end up wearing yourself out and you'll end up being break even at the end. You know, you win some, you lose some. But if you limit the number of trades you take to just those A+ setups, those times where the market is telling you should get in the trade, your emotions are telling you should get in the trade, your risk management is telling you should get in the trade. If you only take those trades, you'll have a much better win rate over a series of days, weeks, months, and years. What does that require? A lot of patience, a lot of willingness to just sit and wait for those A+ opportunities, which is not easy. In the wise words of Charlie Munger, the money is made in the sitting and the waiting, not in the buying and the selling. Because it's a chop zone. You guys hate me. You all hate me. I'm sorry. All right, NQ back below the overnight low. That is less bullish to see. That is increasing the odds. The NQ needs a pullback here. Next support, 18,276. At this point, the more time and the more volume they bring in below that overnight low, the less and less bullish it is. The more likely they need that pullback. Maybe they get a bounce and they head right back up through. But if they get a bounce and they spend more time and bring in more volume, they need another pullback, and so on and so forth. Look at these icebergs, y'all. Working so hard to keep the market in a tight range. Michael says, I'm finally going to plunge into the pro version of Window Trader. Remind me again, is there an offer discount for Brigade members? Yes, sir. When the Brigade stream starts in about 3 or 4 minutes here, you'll see the link in the description there. That one is for the light version of Window Trader, which is this, the slightly less add-ons version. If you want the full version, the blue version, just shoot me an email at ahoy@piratetraders.io, and I will send you the link to get you that 3-month discount. This is redonkulous. Where you going? Nowhere. So what we have at the high right now is what we describe as bad taper in terms of volume profile. They're stopping at literally an exact level. So that tells us they need to poke through at least once. Obviously not yet, because those icebergs won't let it go higher. But at some point today, they should come back up through this high, because it's just too exact of a reversal. And that's computers. And when the computers keep doing that, they keep reversing here and here and here and here. Guess what the sellers that are going short right now are doing? They're putting their stops up above there. So we'll get a pullback, but then as soon as support, come right back up for those stops above. Further confirming a chop zone this morning. Yeah. Okay, they just turned that, bad taper high into a poor high. Same story. Increases the odds that at some point today they're going to poke back through there, but they might first need to push away, looking for support, and then come back for it. I was really hoping I'd have some more information to share before the end of this stream to give you guys some guidance to carry forward, but unfortunately the market is saying no, sir. So as I discussed, we've got this huge node of liquidity up here around 51.60, another one down here at about 51.15. If one of those disappears or both, the market will likely start to make a move one direction or another. As long as they are both there, it's likely to just keep going sideways like it did all weekend long. Okay? As I said with both markets, if they can get below the overnight low and spend time and bring in volume, that could cause a pullback. But at this point, there's no way to know, especially with the ES, if that's even possible. And same thing with the all-time high. If they can get above, 51.49, they could bring in new buyers, and just like Friday, they could just keep it going and going all day long. But first, they'd have to get above there and turn it into support. So I unfortunately am still in waiting and watching mode because we are still in a chop zone. So I appreciate everyone here in the Bookmap stream. I look forward to seeing you here next Monday morning. If you're a member of the brigade, head on over to the private stream. I'll see you there. Thank you very much. Bye.